Hello everyone! Hope you're doing well and had a good holiday for those of you watching in the US. And in today's video, I'll be giving you my recap and thoughts on episode 6, titled Bluebeard's Secret, of the Korean drama It's Okay to Not Be Okay, currently up on Netflix. Gotta say, the beginning of this episode is very emotional, as well as the end, so make sure to bring some tissue when you go to watch. And it seems that I was right about what Moon-young was planning, and she ends up getting what she wants, which was to have Kang-tae move in with her. So she gets what she wants there, but later in the episode, she ends up getting pretty rattled by a patient at the hospital who says that she's her mother, which is quite the shock. So with that, let's get into what actually happens in this episode leading up to it and my thoughts at the end. We start off where we left off with Kang-tae arriving at Moon-young's home, and after checking on Song-tae downstairs, who's passed out from drinking, he goes to find Moon-young, who's still up on the balcony in the bedroom that she's living in. This is when she confronts him about how long he's known that she was the little girl he had mentioned when they first met, and he says he's actually known since their first meeting, and he's just been pretending not to. Moon-young, very upset to hear this, asks why he's been fooling her this whole time, and Kang-tae tries to say that she had pretended not to as well, which isn't exactly true, since after finding out where he was from, she realizes she does remember him and had been bringing it up ever since, trying to get him to recognize her. He says he knew that that's what she had been trying to do, and because of it was pretending not to, because he was ashamed of what he did to her when they were young, which he brought up when they were spending the night. This is also when he formally says he's sorry for running away and thanks her for saving his life back then. He says he hopes to finally cut ties with her officially now that he's been able to apologize and thank her, but Moon-young isn't having it and tells him that he can't just reject her and that she saved his life and he should stay because of that. She wants him to take care of her like he does Song-tae. Kang-tae responds with, yes, she did save his life and he's apparently been living a very effed up life because of it, and he's tired of taking care of everyone around him, and seems like he's planning to put his foot down and stop that behavior. While Moon-young is chasing him to the door, she almost falls down the stairs and he catches her and scolds her a little bit for being so reckless. And this is when she tries again to have him to stay. This is also when Song-tae wakes up and tells Kang-tae about the contract and how he's going to be living with Moon-young and work as her illustrator. When Kang-tae finds this out, he takes the contract and starts tearing it up, and Song-tae, not able to fully express what he's feeling, gets violent as his response. And eventually Moon-young intervenes and calms Song-tae down and gets him to go back inside. After Song-tae is inside, we learn something interesting when Moon-young brings up that his brother has abandoned him, and she asks Kang-tae if he plans to abandon Song-tae in return or let him lock him down his entire life. She also mentions that Kang-tae shouldn't be fickle this time around like he was last. Now, what could she mean by that? Well, apparently there was a lot more leading up to the day that he ended up drowning and her saving him, and we experience more of that story in this episode. That happened the same day his brother got beaten up, and Kang-tae's mom gets mad at him for making his brother come home alone, since that's why it happened. And Kang-tae ends up yelling at his mom that his job isn't to protect his brother, and like what Song-tae said in the present, that he's his own person and should only be protecting himself, and he wishes that his brother would just die. When he runs off, leaving his taekwondo stuff behind, Song-tae picks the items up and follows him, and after Kang-tae calms down a little bit, they end up playing on the ice together, with Moon-young watching in the distance. And it seems that Song-tae had actually fallen in the ice first, and Kang-tae was conflicted about saving him and almost ends up leaving him behind to die. But he ends up changing his mind and jumping in to save his brother. When Song-tae gets out of the water though, he doesn't turn around to help his brother, even though Kang-tae asks Song-tae to give him his hand. Instead, Song-tae just runs off because he's cold and wet. leaving Kang Tae to almost drown and thus saved by Moon Young, who saw the whole thing and who was quietly talking to Kang Tae in the distance to just let his brother drown.
Kang. 그냥 가.
Defeated, Kang Tae goes home, and when he goes to read the contract that he still has, even though it's ripped up, this is when he sees that Song Tae had changed some of the stipulations, that instead of him being paid by Moon Young, she's going to buy the camper RV he wants, since it says in the actual contract he's buying it for his brother who doesn't like to move. So it appears once again that Song Tae is making the choices he is to help his little brother and get what he thinks his little brother needs, which is the camper. And he's overall just trying to be a big brother and look out for his little brother. The next day, we see Lee Sung-in and Yoo Sung-jae at the coffee and cake shop, and this is when we find out Sung-in's plan to hopefully convince Moon Young to let him move in before it's too late, so he can sort of take over the situation and get her writing again and they can make some money. However, he finds out fairly quickly that it is sort of too late already when he goes to the house and finds Song Tae there, and then finds out that she's also hired him to be her new illustrator, which he's not happy with this news. And as he starts to convince Moon Young that this is not a good idea, and how is she going to keep them both out of trouble when she can't even control herself, this is when she says that she has a safety pin, and we see Kang Tae appear with bags, since after talking with Juri's mother, he decides to move into the house and stay by his brother's side and keep him safe that way. Now, when Juri's mother gives Kang Tae this advice, she doesn't know it's Moon Young who hired Song Tae, and after she finds this out, she feels really bad for what she advises, and for her daughter, who reacts like you would expect when she hears the news that Kang Tae is moving in with Moon Young.
재수 오빠 왜 저래? 취했어? 그게 문영 이렇게 뼈딱 같은 기집애!
And their friend Jo Jae-soo isn't happy about it either as well, but mostly because they moved without him and he knows that Moon Young is bad news. When Kang Tae arrives at the house, he tells Moon Young the new plan is that they will stay at her house during the week, and on weekends they're going to stay at Juri's, and if Song Tae wants to leave or break the contract at any time, he can. With that, they are shown to their new room, which was Moon Young's old bedroom, and through the episode they start to make the place livable. And one morning, Moon Young wakes to finding the entire place cleaned, the sheets covering the furniture gone, and tasty food for breakfast that Kang Tae has made. This is also when we kind of find out how hard Kang Tae and Song Tae's life has been, since it seems that neither of them have really ever slept in a bed before. We also witness some strange things occur in the house, like one night Song Tae is getting up and while walking down the hall, something brings his attention to a door that is opening on its own, and it's the one leading to the basement. When he goes to check it out, Moon Young finds him and stops him from going to the basement door and tells him the story of Bluebeard and how he had a habit of killing his wives and keeping their bodies in the basement to scare him off. When she's telling the story, we see a flashback scene of Moon Young's parents at the house, I think when it was first built, when they were young, and before she was born, walking through the house, and you can see how much her father adored her mother when they were young. And later, when he's at the hospital, he's telling the head nurse about his wife and how beautiful she had been. While in a slightly catatonic state, which is worrying the director, since another patient who he's been using as a spy for information about the other patients, he finds out that the night before, Moon Young's father was sitting up and asking him where he was going, since he was sneaking off to talk to the director. But then today, he's not responding to anyone, but does end up talking to the head nurse about his wife, and very quietly. The next day at the hospital gets pretty interesting, and we find out more about the patient who had wanted to talk to Kang Tae the other day and had wanted to set him up with her daughter. Even though he said no, we see her talking to her daughter on the phone, asking to come by since Kang Tae is working that day, And we overhear her roommates also telling the nurses, or more tattling, that she's been taking their snacks and not paying them back for them. This is when the other staff member brings up how when you look at this patient, she doesn't appear to be as crazy as she actually is. And this gets him some piercing glares from the two nurses at the station. We see the director checking in on Song-tae and the mural and ends up bringing up butterflies by mentioning to Song-tae that because the mural has so many flowers, he should paint some butterflies. You can see that Song-tae is agitated by this and he says that he won't do it. So the director is still testing the waters, trying to figure out why he has this fear of butterflies. Earlier, when Song-tae and Kang-tae are at Moon-young's, scoping out the library and talking about why Song-tae wants the RV and how many times they've moved but never actually gone to travel because of the butterflies, Kang-tae tells Song-tae not to talk about it in front of Moon-young before she can really figure out what he's talking about and question the butterfly thing. At the hospital, while Moon-young is waiting for her class to start, she feels someone watching her and ends up following someone into the construction area that she had gone to previously with Kang-tae. And it's the patient we saw earlier talking to her daughter on the phone. But when she sees Moon-young in the construction area, she tells her that she's her mother. And for a hot second, it seemed like Moon-young believed her and was really confused and shook. And Kang-tae, who sees Moon-young through the door, hears her asking the patient if it's really her mother and how is she back. After the patient keeps talking though, she realizes that the patient thinks that she's her actual daughter, who we find out passed away a few months ago, and the patient is severely depressed and with everything that's been happening to her is going through a psychotic depression, which is causing her to hallucinate and have delusions. So right now, the delusion is that she's married to a wealthy man and her daughter is alive and well. And right now, she thinks that Moon-young is her daughter and keeps trying to get her to talk and meet Kang-tae since she wants to set her daughter up with him before it's too late and date him before someone else because he's such a catch. And she just wants her daughter to be safe and happy. Moon-young is clearly shaken by this encounter and ends up blowing up during class as she can't stop hearing what the patient said to her about her being her mother over and over in her head, and she ends up yelling in class, "Just stop, shut up." We also see Song-in and his assistant meet with Kang-tae at the hospital, where Song-in asks him to move out and tells Kang-tae that Moon-young needs him since he's been with her for the past 10 years and knows her the best, and that she doesn't just consider him a CEO but also a brother, mentor, and even her man. After hearing this, Kang-tae's response is that he's not going anywhere. I think this reaction that Kang-tae has was caused by Song-in saying that not only was he Moon-young's publisher but his man, and maybe he got a little, I don't know, territorial maybe? But after that, Kang-tae seemed a little jealous and was like, I'm not going anywhere and you're obviously only using her for her monetary value, which that whole conversation occurred and why Song-in said that Moon-young considers him her man, because it's like, oh, it's not just about money, like I care for her as a person too, but it's about the money. He needs that money because obviously he's gone bankrupt because of her and he needs her to write a new book to make them some cash. While all this is going down, Kang-tae is trying to reach Moon-young after hearing about what happened during her class, and it appears that she left her phone in the classroom. And while he's eating with Juri, her mother, and Song-tae, the patient from earlier has yet again found Moon-young and is following her around, still thinking Moon-young is her daughter. And as they see Kang-tae with Juri and everyone at the cafeteria, the patient, seeing this, tells Moon-young she needs to get in there and snag Kang-tae before it's too late, and is just trying to be Moon-young's mom. Moon-young can't take it anymore and tells the patient to stop saying the word mom and that she can't be Moon-young's mother because her mother is dead, and goes into some pretty gory details about her mother's corpse and what it looked like.
뭐? 우리 엄마는 죽었다고. 엄마! 머리가 깨져서 피가 터지고 아니야. 사지가 뒤틀려서 눈을 덜했어. 아니야. 안 죽었어?
그 빗자국이 아직도 바닥에 그대로 있다고.
So it appears that her mother is in fact dead and Moon Young might have witnessed what happened to her. It is from a car accident, but we still see flashes of her mother's body in the basement, and we later see the stain from her blood on the floor when Moon Young goes down there later in the episode. This causes the patient to faint, and we later see Moon Young at home upset and avoiding Kang Tae and Song Tae curled up in her bed. That night, she has another nightmare and I think suffering from sleep paralysis where her mother's ghost is hovering over her, telling her that she's going to kill the prince if he tries to come and save her, which seems to be a recurring nightmare of hers. Kang Tae hears her crying and goes to check on her, and when he's able to wake her up, she's sobbing, telling him that he needs to run even though she's holding onto his shirt super tight. And he tells her that he's going to stay and holds her until she calms down from the nightmare. And that's how they end the episode. Man, there was some upsetting stuff that happened in this episode, and my heart hurts for all the characters and what they're going through and have been through. The earlier scenes when Kang Tae is trying to get Song Tae to leave with him and him basically mirroring what Kang Tae had said to his mother when they were young was really powerful. And seeing the truth behind what happened when they were kids and how Kang Tae ended up drowning was super crazy and kind of awful. I thought the scenes of Kang Tae and Song Tae making Moon Young's home a home was really sweet. And I loved how they showed the rooms looking brighter and more vibrant after the guys had kind of cleaned everything and, you know, was making it a home where before she was like living in a cursed castle. So them being there is already a big improvement. Overall, another great episode leading to more questions that I now have. And I also liked the little extra scenes they added of the Bluebeard story being played out and the bloopers from it. This show is just so amazing and I can't wait to see what happens next, and I now have no idea what's going on with Moon Young's mother. I thought that she might be alive, but I'm thinking she's really dead, and I'm really hoping that they give us some more clear answers. But it does seem that maybe it was a car accident or something to that nature, but either way, Moon Young does actually see her body and it's in the basement. I'm thinking that Kang Tae and Song Tae's mother's death is related somehow since she was found dead on the road. And my running theory is maybe she got hit by Moon Young's mother and that's what Moon Young is remembering. And then because she did it on purpose or something, her father kind of loses it and kills his wife, hiding her in the basement where Moon Young finds her. And that's why we have flashes of Moon Young seeing her body in the basement and then why her father tries to kill her because he thinks that she's just like her mother. And then later, now that he's older in the hospital, when he sees Moon Young, he sees his wife, and that's why he tries to choke her then. This is also the director's running theory, so that sort of led me to my theory there, but we'll just have to wait and see. But obviously, both of the moms' deaths have to be connected. They can't be a coincidence. So I'm interested to see how that's connected. This isn't a big thing, but I'm also curious why exactly Kang Tae and Song Tae's friend is so keen on following them wherever they move. I know he's not a major character, but I'm starting to want to know how exactly they ended up connected and together and why he insists on moving with them. Like, he seems very obsessed with Kang Tae, but why does he feel like he owes his life and has to follow them everywhere? His character is just very interesting, and I wonder if they're going to give him more of a backstory. I guess we'll have to wait and see in the next episode. But with that, I'm going to end this video. If you liked this recap, please make sure to subscribe for more and give the video a thumbs up. And let me know if you have any running theories so far in the comments below. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.